What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about some major indications that there are some big changes coming, and they're not the kind of changes that we necessarily want to see. I'm not here to spread fear, and I'm definitely not claiming any kind of certainty about anything. It's really important to remember that no matter what things look like, we can always be wrong. The improbable is highly likely, paradoxically, but it's true that things can suddenly take a turn in some unpredicted direction at any time. But the reality is that the trajectory, sociologically and economically and culturally, particularly in the United States, has been pretty consistent for quite a while, and there's indications that it's accelerating. And in the last week, I've experienced some things that I consider to be pretty serious red flags. Certainly has actually caused, measurable damage to my life. And I have heard today from other people that this is not just me. It kind of seems like the rug is suddenly getting pulled out from underneath of us. There's increased censorship on YouTube and other platforms. There seems to suddenly be synchronization between TikTok and YouTube, which is super, super weird. Of course, it could be a coincidence, but I'll explain all of that in a minute. I just kind of want to touch on all of it. And then there have been a couple of comments that have come from the elite, an announcement made by BlackRock, Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum, that are all very consistent with my expectations. It's like I will see something and then I will make a prediction, and then that prediction is fulfilled. And unfortunately, as far as I've been able to project my predictions, they've all been kind of falling into place, which is really the opposite of what I want to see. I mean, it doesn't feel good to make these kind of predictions and have them turn out to be correct. And, I also want to make it clear that I am here to encourage people. We cannot be afraid. That is not the answer. That's not the solution. What we have to do is actually, be encouraged and look for ways to create opportunity out of crisis, if that's what's coming. We have to find courage and fearlessness, and at the same time have the objectivity and the intelligence and the motivation to really honestly and objectively surveil the situation and analyze it and do our best to make intelligent decisions that are not informed by fear, because decisions made out of fear are always wrong, and decisions made out of love are always correct. And so, we have to be able to look at all of this and be honest with ourselves about what it could all mean. I think I've caught myself speaking of all of those things with a little bit more denial than I would like to admit, but I've kind of been hoping that I was paranoid and that, it would all turn out to be conspiracy theories, and we would wake up soon and, we would have a sudden change in trajectory and everything would go back to, early 90s levels of prosperity and blah, blah, blah. But I've seen a few things in the last couple of weeks that really shake my confidence of that. So why don't we start with the worst first? Klaus Schwab recently called a press conference, I guess. I don't know if it was a talk. I don't know what it was, but I know it happened very recently. I don't watch Jimmy Dore, but I just happened to see a clip of Klaus talking, and he said that he is very concerned that there is an anti-establishment movement gaining momentum in the United States, and that he's afraid that the hatred for the elite, and he used, I'm pretty much quoting him right now. I mean, it's not 100% verbatim, but he actually referred to them as the elites, which really blew my mind. I wasn't expecting that at all, but he did. He said, we're actually afraid this is going to have some kind of consequences for the elite. He went on to talk about it a little bit more, and he was basically saying, some of the slaves have become aware of their predicament, and we're running out of time to get them back under control. How's it going? By the way, I'm doing a music stream tonight because a couple of people have asked me why I haven't done them recently. And this actually ties into what we're talking about, the sudden economic difficulties that it seems like everyone is going through. And by the way, drop a comment for me after the stream or even in the chat and let me know how your situation is, because I'm trying to figure out how much of this is just me and how much of it is actually the economy suddenly plummeting. Because my point of view on this really is that we can't trust any information at this point. You don't know whether an alternative narrative is being generated as disinformation by the propaganda machine. The mainstream narratives are actually truth mixed with lies. Otherwise, they wouldn't be effective, and everyone would notice that they're lying all the time, right? So it's not that simple. It's very, very difficult for us to really ascertain the exact details of what's actually happening, because we've gotten to the point where we can't trust anything. That's also, by the way, kind of deliberate. The apathy that's being cultivated is extremely noticeable. I think I'm able to see it maybe a little bit better than a lot of people because I've been outside of society for so long that, it's like I was there in 2000 and then I've been outside of it ever since then. And then I look back in and to me, it's like one day to the next. You know what I mean? It's like, if you don't take your height between the ages of 7 and 12, you're going to really notice the difference when you measure again or something. I mean, you guys understand what I'm saying. That's kind of how it is. And the level of apathy and the confusion and, you guys know, it's basically the degradation of the minds of people, I think, in a lot of ways. It's pretty disconcerting. But okay, so Klaus says he's scared, and he's scared that the unwashed masses are coming over the fences any minute now. Of course, the reason I'm telling you guys this is in case you missed it, that is an indication that something is about to happen, right? Because they're not going to just say, okay, we're scared now that the, unwashed masses are coming to get us, and then nothing happens. That's not real. You know what I mean? You can forget about that. There's pretty much no chance that they're not about to tighten the reins. Right? Like almost zero chance of that. So, really, really important that we're paying attention and willing to take action. And I guess, now would be a good time to talk a little bit about why I started to anticipate something coming in the next few weeks or so, a couple of weeks ago. I know some of you guys are probably sick of hearing about this. I've been talking about it a lot. But I caught a shadow ban on the main algorithm in like 2020. I don't know exactly what happened, but I got a notification from Facebook saying that they're fighting disinformation by communicating across platforms. So basically they're saying to me, we flagged you, so we let YouTube know that you're a problem. None of my videos got taken down. Nothing happened. The only thing that I'd said on YouTube was about Kamala Harris and her dirty record. And I was instantly demonetized the same day that I got this notice from Facebook. My Shopify license was pulled for absolutely no reason, so my income disappeared there too. That happened a little bit earlier, but it was weird. It didn't make any sense. They couldn't give me a good reason. It was just gone. I probably could have sued them, honestly, now that I'm looking back on it. But at any rate, so they're working across platforms, and they informed me of that. And so ever since then, it has never changed. My views dropped from thousands in a few days to hundreds ever, and then the videos all die no matter what. Even if I have 300% watch time and 50% likes, they'll die at like 50 views on the Shorts algorithm now. And that happened ever since I posted something about BlackRock owning everything. It was a repost of RFK Jr. talking about this. And so I had been going straight up in the air, like 100,000 views up from 20 in a single month. And this had sustained for like 2.5 months. As soon as I posted that BlackRock owns everything and will own, everything else that they don't own yet by 2030, you guys can look. I posted it in the community. My views just tanked. My subscribers went from 30 a day to 0 in the last couple of days. 0. So, it could be a coincidence. Oh, and then also TikTok on the same day, my notifications dropped from 5,000 to 5. Right? Because I have 57,000. My TikTok is much bigger than YouTube. Dropped, and there's been no new views. None at all. 0 on the daily. So That could be a coincidence as well, but I did post that video on TikTok at the same time that I posted it on the shorts. So just the possibility that they've synchronized these algorithms to suppress the same kind of content is pretty disconcerting because, we've been hearing forever about the New World Order. People say it's a conspiracy theory, but we know it's not a conspiracy theory. Bush Jr. and Sr. mentioned it. They actually had a New World Order commencement speech in like 2015 or something. I don't remember the exact date, but it was literally called that, the New World Order commencement speech. And one of the things I want to point out about this is that they are speaking about this stuff openly now because they know that the people that are aware and paying attention already know, and the people that are brainwashed and aren't going to listen aren't going to change their minds. That's what happens when you have cognitive dissonance rooted in people, because if you challenge either part of these opposing realities that people are keeping in their heads, then fight or flight instinct is activated and the person shuts down, shuts you out. It's incredible how intense it is. I mean, I made relatively minor political statements. Both parties. I don't support anything really. Besides the evolution of consciousness, because, as I was saying in the stream last night, it doesn't matter what ism schism game we play, what ism we put behind the system. We adopt capitalism, then we decide that it's got to be socialism, and then we go to communism. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Even some new ism that the aliens give us, that no one has conceived of yet. Some new hybrid system that obviously blows them all out of the water. Until the consciousness of the entire collective organism has changed, it doesn't fucking matter what system you put in place, it will be abused. That's one of the biggest fallacies of people's political knowledge. There's like one side will argue like, well, look at all the deaths from communism while 20 million people a year are starving from fucking capitalism. You know what I mean? That's not the point. It doesn't matter. That's not it. It's the consciousness of the race. That is the only thing that's going to make a difference. So, that's why it's so necessary to just kind of avert your attention from those systems, because it's totally beside the point until we get ourselves figured out. It's just irrelevant. But so when I noticed that the algorithm had suddenly gotten much, 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 much more suppressive, I said it on a stream. I said it's about to get worse. Something is about to happen. So a few days after I really noticed something was happening with my ability to communicate with the outside world had been seriously affected. Which, it's totally like our businesses, all of them are like dead silent. My emails, we're busy every day, because I have, a lot of different things going on. And for the last like month and a half, it's been like dead silent, which for 2 years, it's been pretty busy all the time. Suddenly dead silent. In large part because I could reach millions of people on TikTok and then funnel it into YouTube, and it didn't matter if they shadow banned me as much because I had, So anyways, I noticed this, and I thought that's a pretty good indication that something's coming. And for a few years now, I've known that there were Saudi royalty that are trillionaires. People say Elon Musk is the richest man in the world or Putin's the richest man in the world. Neither of those things are true. The Saudis no one can audit them. They're royalty. They don't have to show their books to anyone. But we do know for certain through intelligence gathering that there are Saudis that pull $1 billion worth of crude out of the ground a day. They're trillionaires, and yet we never hear about anything about them in the media. And like I said last night, can you imagine a world completely run by Saudi royalty? Doesn't sound like fun to me. So then remember how I was saying that BlackRock owns 85% of the Standard & Poor 500, and they're buying up all of the private homes. Bill Gates is buying up all the farmland. So I knew this about the Saudis, and then a few days, I guess, after I noticed that the shadow bans seemed to be really bad all of a sudden, I found out that BlackRock has actually put Saudi royalty as their CEO. So now the real kings of the world have come out of the shadows, and they've actually taken office, is basically what that means. And I think the fact that we have Klaus Schwab, who suddenly feels empowered to come out and actually talk about the fact that they're worried they're losing control of the mindless masses and that they're afraid they're going to come after them, right? They're speaking about this shit openly. There was another guy, not from the World Economic Forum. I honestly don't know who he is, except that he was obviously a billionaire. You know what I mean? No question about that. And he was speaking to a crowd that looked like the World Economic Forum in this video. Don't really know who it is, but absolutely no doubt that he was somebody with clout. And he was talking about how they have to crush the middle class openly, like openly fucking just saying, you know, we cannot tolerate this shift in attitude on the part of the worker. They feel like we're lucky to have them and not the other way around. And the way that we have to shift this dynamic is to crush them financially. That is the only way to drive the wages back down and to get things back under control. So you guys, you know, they've been calling us conspiracy theorists and laughing in our faces and, you know, hurting us financially and doing all this stuff to us. And now they're talking about all this stuff right over the table in the public eye, no hesitation at all whatsoever. So, you know, that's just my observation that I felt compelled to come on and say, hey, I've noticed this. They've obviously cracked down on the censorship. They've ratcheted it up. They put a muzzle on me as if I wasn't already muzzled enough. By the way, you guys, do me a favor, hit the like button, share, subscribe. We still are having, well, because we just found out that we're ineligible for the COVID money that I had first ignored because I didn't want to take government handouts or get my son a social security number. But then I realized, hey, it's $10,000. And they said, well, no, he didn't have a social security number. Therefore, he doesn't exist. So you don't get the $10,000. So our plans have shifted. And now we are just going to stay here in the jungle for another like 60 to 90 days. And we're going to continue to have retreats to kind of offset this kind of disappointing news that we have gotten from the IRS. So, and not that I'm not happy to do it. I mean, that's what we were going to do out on the coast anyways. So if it was too soon for you to come in September, you now have the option of November and December as well. And we're looking for partners because the situation that we have out on the coast is definitely a big upgrade and it's an amazing place. And speaking of Ayampe, I'm really considering looking for some property and some like-minded people that have skills that, you know, can catalyze and have a syncretism together and maybe create some power and some momentum in an independent way outside of the main domicile of Babylon. And, you know, Ecuador has a lot less crime than a lot of the other places in South America. The weather's always perfect. In the jungle, there's food, fruit, nuts, you know, everything you need, psychedelic plants all over the place. So, you know, it's really one of the best places. If you have a better idea, let me know, because in the next like 6 to 8 months, I should be coming into a reasonable amount of money and I'll be able to actually take some action. So basically at this point, I'm trying to align myself with people that are serious and, you know, of the same sort of disposition of consciousness that I carry and try to make something happen because, you know, we have to unify to whatever extent we are capable and start to build something meaningful if we're to have any chance of, you know, navigating whatever's coming without being run over by it. Look at that, 100% likes. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Actually, now there are more likes than there are viewers, so that's pretty epic. Yeah, you know, and even though I have already suffered for for calling these people out, I'm still doing it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm just saying, you guys, if you appreciate this, it's time to support us because honestly, I'm a little bit shaken. To be frank, I mean, I noticed last night it's affecting my concentration a little bit, and it's not necessarily fear of like, you know, the impending slavery or whatever, but we're suddenly just, you know, financially we've come to a grinding halt, like just out of nowhere. Things were going great and just all of a sudden fucking brick wall in our path. And then when I started to think, okay, well, it doesn't matter, I'll just get online and do something about it, and all of my accounts are invisible almost to people, you know. I realized that some people still get notified on YouTube and whatnot, But look at my shorts. Look what happened. You can see there were 50,000, the busiest ones, and hundreds, and 500, 1100, 1200. And then right after that BlackRock video, they dropped to like 20, 30, 50. And I'm going to make a video just to demonstrate this stuff, because people need to see proof, I guess, of what's happening and the way that they're suppressing people. Why they don't just delete all of us altogether, I'm not really sure. Maybe that would be too much of a red flag for people. I do wonder a lot if people seem to think that they have to be careful and not make the people too angry or whatever, but it doesn't really seem to me like that's going to make much of a difference. I mean, I have a hard time imagining that most of these people are going to do anything no matter what, unless their comfort is directly disrupted. And even then, I think it's pretty unlikely that we can rely on the masses to do anything. It's up to us. It's up to this small minority of people who have managed to see through the bullshit and, survive with our common sense and our critical thinking capacity still intact, because it's really tough out there. One of the things they're doing, I think, to circumvent an effective revolution and to stop people from gaining momentum is that they're putting traps of just complete bullshit narratives everywhere. I suspect the flat earth of being like a psyop, agent provocateur kind of thing, where they're just trying to associate people that question things with complete idiocy. And there's quite a few of those, and just other narratives, because what happens is if you fall into some kind of falsehood, some sort of illusory narrative, and you start putting energy into that, the law of attraction is another one. It's not that it's totally bunk, but the way that it's marketed to people, it's really exaggerated, and they make it sound way easier than it actually is, and all of this stuff. And so rather than actually taking action and making something happen and affecting changes and empowering themselves, people are completely fucking wasting their energy doing absolutely nothing. And they're still able to convince themselves that they're actually doing amazing things in the world, and so they're pacified. So we really have to be careful and really aware of what it is that we're navigating, and how many snags and snares and deceptions. And, just because something is not consistent with the overall mainstream narrative doesn't mean it isn't just propaganda. You have to remember that this is nothing new. And propaganda, intelligence agencies go back to ancient China. The bumbling bureaucracy image is totally manufactured to explain a lot of the evils of, government, that it's just ineptitude, that they're just out of touch, that they're, maybe a little bit corrupt, but they're, generally serving the interests of the people, and, democracy is still real and all this kind of shit. It's not that. Well, he's asking if the World Economic Forum has a strong hold on Ecuador. Actually, what happened here is the people would literally physically drag the president out of the palace when they got mad at him. It almost happened like a couple of years ago. But they don't take shit here. They literally physically removed 4 presidents from the palace in like 15 years or something. But in 2000, I don't know when, 12 or something, I think it was probably 2012, Obama came down here and met privately with the president of Ecuador at the time, and everything was going great until that happened. The people loved the president. The economy was great. But then as soon as Obama left, they sent bulldozers into the last uncontacted tribes land that had been protected to get the oil. A couple of months ago, that oil line actually broke and killed a bunch of Shuar children and destroyed their water and wrecked the jungle. And they put them on the dollar. So it is definitely not some isolated, island away from the influence of all of this stuff. But like I said, here in the jungle, there's very little in the way of danger. And there's a lot of food, and a lot of it's really good. It's not like you're just eating what you can to get by. because you have to. There's cacao that is amazing. There are all kinds of like chicle or these weird little foamy fruits that, like hard foam, almost like the same texture as like the cushion in your bed, your mattress, kind of squishy and foam, hard foam. I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean? There's all kinds of crazy fruits and nuts and palm fruits and stuff. And you find one fruiting palm and you can pull 100 pounds of food off of it, maybe more sometimes. Coconuts, it's definitely, if I was going to have to survive somewhere, this would definitely be one of the top places that I would consider. That's, I'm here for the end of the world party, so. Yeah, so I don't know. Did I mention the other guy, the other rich guy that said that they needed to crush the middle class openly? Yeah, I think I did. I did say that. I'm just trying to run through all my main talking points here and make sure that I got to like all the major indicators. Oh, and by the way, like I said, don't forget to leave comments in the description letting me know if you have had increased financial difficulty, and like I'm trying to get an idea of what's actually happening. But it's definitely true that in the last like 2.5 months, my email has completely gone silent, and I also have had trouble like getting paid from companies that should have a lot of money, like making a lot of excuses. And I don't know if it's just that they are just shady, or if they're actually having trouble paying their bills, So I'm just trying to get a read on how much of this is me and how much of it is actually, global problems. Speaking of that, please join our Patreon. There are also options for supporting this channel, which is demonetized and shadow banned in the chat via PayPal and Zelle and all of those kind of things. Also, I'm going to eat a heroic dose of mushrooms and then get my guitar and get online later. Also, I did it a few weeks ago and we had about 300 people, which is up. That's another thing, right? I used to do live streams, music streams, and we would get like 30 to 40 people and I would make about $100 an hour. This last one, we had 300 people, $0. I got $0 with 10 times as many people. And I don't think it's because I've just gone downhill so badly. That was another indication to me that people just don't have any money anymore. So, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I noticed that, that it used to be 10% of the numbers of people. And, significantly more tips were made. So it does seem to me that people are really running aground. And of course, if you watch the mainstream narrative on this, they're saying, oh, President Biden has, turned the economy around and jobs or whatever. You know what I mean? The evidence of my senses is telling me that that's complete bullshit and that people are actually going down in flames. But, of course, that's not what we're hearing. No, the power structure in Ecuador is not like Mexico. The cartels don't have a lot of power here. Supposedly they have a deal with the government that as long as there isn't violence, they'll more or less let them move through unobstructed. And that's what it seems to be to me. I mean, cocaine is not rampant here the way that it is in Peru. If you go to Peru on the beach somewhere, like you can get it at from any waiter, any taxi driver, like anyone, anywhere. Everyone has it. Everyone in certain beach towns and stuff. Here in Ecuador, we have one town like that called Montanita. And the cops don't do anything. It's kind of a party town. There's like everything is available on the street. It's all real too. People don't rip you off. There aren't a lot of robberies. The locals will actually, if there is someone that steals or steals a wallet, rips someone off, the locals will take them out on the beach and beat them senseless and then drag them to the police station. So no, it's way different here. You'll actually be protected by the locals if someone robs you in a lot of cases. Certainly not everywhere, but in Montanita. But no, we don't have, we're not overrun by cartels. There isn't really cartel violence here, and none of that stuff is really a problem. So yeah, guys, join my Discord. I'm going to go for a walk right now and think about all this stuff, and then I'm going to pop on in a seriously altered state in a couple of hours. But, reach out to me, reach out to each other. we got to figure out who has what kind of skills and, what we can actually do and how we're going to do it, and actually have some kind of organized, very cautious, but organized resistance. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. And the apathy that we're seeing from people compared to how they would have reacted 20 years ago is absolutely mind-blowing. It's really, really difficult to mobilize people in any way, shape, or form unless there's a lot of self-interest motivating them. So I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for spending this time with me. I really felt like, I've noticed this stuff, and it seems to suggest that we're in for another round of 2020 level weirdness, and we all need to be prepared for that. And so having made my points, thank you so much, and I'll see you again later tonight.